Hey, Mike.
Hi, Heather. You're looking good today.
Oh, thank you. So are you. How are you doing?
I just had a haircut.
Looking nice.
Oh yeah, thank you. So yeah, I'm good. Just got back from a fun week in Santa Barbara, and yeah, things are pretty
Oh,
good.
cool. Right on. What kind of did you go to like Disneyland? You probably never go to Disneyland because you used to work there, right?
Yeah, you would probably. Yeah, Disneyland doesn't interest me much. I did have to go pick up my mother in Orange County, which is close to Disneyland, but anyway, no. So yeah, no, I had a week, as I probably said on previous shows. Every year, me and my family spend a week at what's called the Family Vacation Center, which they hold at the where I went to college, UC Santa Barbara, and you stay in the dorms and eat in the cafeteria, and there's lots of activities to do all day long. And in my case, I went to the beach a lot, and on one day on Monday, I got stung by a stingray, which is extremely
Ooh.
painful. Just to warn you, but I survived, no permanent damage. And if it should ever happen to you, put your foot in hot water because immediately alleviates the pain, and I think is also good to avoid it getting infected and things like that. So that was a first for me, getting stung by a stingray.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That's painful.
What can you do? I happen to have an OxyContin with me, but even that did not help very much. It's hard to describe how painful it is. And it's not just the area of the sting. I think the venom, if that's the right term, gets in your blood and your whole body hurts, especially the extremities like your hands and your feet.
Oh my God, that must have been so incredibly painful. How long did the pain last for?
About 4 hours. So, once you get past it, at least in my case, there's no permanent damage. So anyway, it's the price you pay for having fun.
For being an adventurer.
Yep. And I think all things considered, for all the adventures I've done, I've made out pretty well in avoiding accidents.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the stories that you return to us and share with us about the adventures that you have worldwide. It's so incredible.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have any trivia today?
We have Olympic trivia in honor
Oh,
of the
nice.
2024 Olympic Games in Paris.
Oh, nice. Well, shall we start with the trivia question? And if
Sure.
you guys are watching and you have a question, a gambling question for Michael Shackelford, please put that in the chat and we will answer those in the order that they are received.
Okay, so there's 20 questions, so let's try to go kind of quickly. Okay, question number one. Which three countries have hosted the Summer Olympic Games in at least two different cities?
So if you know the answer, put that in the chat. Are they supposed to put both the country and the city or just the country?
Just the city will suffice, or yeah, no, you should put both. You shouldn't just like throw out countries. I want to know the cities to show that you really know the answer. And as always, no searching.
No Google searching. Okay. So while we were waiting for you guys to answer that trivia question, let's see what gambling questions you have for us today. The first one is from Jafar, who says, do you think the popularity of slot machines that use pay lines have declined in comparison to the newer slot machines that do not follow pay lines, such as Sweet Bonanza?
I've never been asked that before. So, by way of explanation, a lot of slot machines now do not have pay lines, but they have what are called ways to win. And it's a little bit difficult to explain the difference. But with a way to win, it matters like how you draw you connect the symbols in the win, but it doesn't matter how the pay line goes after that. So yeah, so I think that Aristocrat really likes the ways to win, and frankly, I think a lot of the companies do. It allows them to basically, if they say that there are no pay lines, that you get every way to win that you can draw through the screen. So let me see what the question was. Do I think that the popularity of payline machines has declined? It absolutely has. There's no doubt about that. I don't really have any opinion about the matter. It just is what it is. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. So our next question is also from Jafar, who says, I see that most of your tutorials focus on card games like blackjack and poker. Can we expect to see a C++ tutorial from you for analyzing a slot machine?
Well, on my website, I already deconstruct several games, some made up games and some actual games like Lucky Larry's Lobster Mania. And slot machines can usually be analyzed in Excel. Now, you might say, well, then make a video analyzing it in Excel. And that's not a bad idea, to be honest with you. And maybe, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to add that to my mental list of project ideas, which, to be honest with you, is a pretty long list.
Does it seem like your to-do list is never ending?
Nope, it seems to be getting longer lately because it seems like I'm working less, so things come out of it slower than they are getting added to it.
That makes sense. Jafar has a statement, not a question. Your tutorials on gambling analysis are what made me fall in love with this field. One day I will become a game mathematician and I will be greatly indebted to you.
Thank you very much for the fine words. And, this might be a good time to get into that because, as I've said before, I'm thinking about retiring next year. And so far, there's really nobody stepping up to fill my shoes. Yeah, just for what that's worth.
And that's going to come so fast, too.
Yeah, to be honest, it might be hard to retire, and I might kind of do it gradually, which, to be honest, I already have started that process. Like I just said, I'm working less, so I'm kind of phasing into retirement.
Okay. Our next question is from Jean, who says, today is National Whataburger Day. How do you like your burgers made and dressed, and what are your favorite sides?
Well, let's see. I like In-N-Out. I know lots of people do. It's not the most creative pick, but I get my burgers there, cheeseburger with onions, and let's see. How do you like your burgers made? Just with everything. I don't like anything that's too fancy. I went through a phase where if there was a menu with lots of burgers, I would always get something more exotic. But I think that I've drifted back to just like your standard cheeseburger is fine with me. And, I love a nice thick tomato. I love tomatoes. And yeah, I like the onions. And favorite sides. I'm trying to cut down on all fried foods like French fries and onion rings, but nevertheless, they sure taste good. Yeah, I guess onion rings would be my favorite side, but I usually don't let myself get them because I try to eat somewhat healthy. So there you go. That is my answer to that one.
Awesome. I love an In-N-Out burger too. I think that's one of my favorite burger joints.
Yeah, I never get tired of them. Yeah, I ate at the In-N-Out in Barstow, both going to and from Santa Barbara on this trip, as I often do.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm so glad that there's like In-N-Out burgers in Las Vegas because it's so nice to have that in Las Vegas. I would get a double protein style because I have an allergy to gluten. I have celiac disease. And then I would have no onions, no spread. So just cheese, tomatoes, lettuce, and then just a normal French fry. And then I have to get like 2 French fries because as I'm driving home, I'm always like eating the French fries out of the bag while I'm driving. And by the time I get home, there's like no French fries left. And I want to have French fries with ketchup. So I have to get 2 of them.
Okay, nice. All right.
Yeah.
All right. We have a lot of Olympic questions. So what answers did we get on that one?
Was it the US, which is LA and Chicago, and then Australia, which is Melbourne and Sydney?
I'll give that partial credit. The Australia part is right, and the US is the right country, but Chicago has never hosted the Olympics. Los
Okay.
Angeles has, though, twice.
So we're just missing a city
And a whole
in
other country.
America. Okay. And I
So, but
don't
I've given you guys
see.
enough time, so I'm just going to say the answer. The
Okay.
uh, the United States has hosted in three cities: Los Angeles, St. Louis, and Atlanta. And the other country is Germany, which has hosted the Summer Games in Munich and Berlin. So let's go on to question 2. Which country has hosted? No, I'm going to skip that one because I kind of gave away the answer. Okay, how about this one? Where will the 2028 and 2032 Summer Games be held?
So if you know that answer, put that in the chat. And while we are waiting, our next gambling question comes from Paul, who says in Nevada's small stores and gas stations with slot machines, do they keep thousands of dollars on hand to pay jackpots?
Huh. Um, to be honest, I don't really know. I think that generally they are expected to have enough cash on hand to pay jackpots that people might reasonably hit. I do think I have heard anecdotal stories, like second and third hand, of people hitting like a really big jackpot, like $100,000, and they had to come back and get a check or something like that. Um, but yeah, the Nevada Gaming Control Board is pretty serious about places that have a gaming license having enough cash on hand to pay winners. But again, if it's a gas station, and it's kind of ridiculous to have, say, $100,000 on hand. So I would say that it is not a significant problem about them not having enough cash. And in the unlikely event that they did, trust me, you'll get your money. You probably, if a check is satisfactory, you probably could come back probably later that day and get one. And if you really wanted cash, you probably might have to come back the next day and get it, because they probably would need to go to the franchise headquarters or whatever to get the sufficient cash.
Yeah. From my understanding of it, it's the company that owns the slot machine that pays you, not the gas station or the grocery store or whatever that gives you that money.
Yeah, as you said, the way I would put it is these little gas station and supermarket casinos are not really, shall we say, the supermarket is just renting that space, and there's these operators that have whole chains of these where they put their machines, and I think there's some profit sharing. Either there's a profit sharing agreement with the store, or they just flat out rent the space, and the store doesn't really care what happens.
Yeah. Our
Okay,
next question is also
Hmm?
our next question is also from Paul, who says the typical process of game paid for what is the typical process of game paid for a 6 or 7-figure jackpot at a casino?
Usually, for it to be 6 or 7 figures, especially 7, there needs to be a lot of verification involved, and lots of times it's on what's called a what's the term for it? The term escapes me, but the machine it's under a profit sharing agreement with IGT or whoever, the company that makes the machine, and the casino. So let's say it's an IGT machine, and a big jackpot is hit, say on Mega Millions, Mega Bucks. They will send their representative, and they have them all over Nevada, to verify that it's a clean win. And once he does, I would imagine that he writes a check on the spot. So, as I've said many times, here in Nevada, we take it very seriously that gamblers can trust that they're going to get paid if they win. and they're not going to get a big jackpot, and the casino is going to say that's just too much for me to pay, as has been known to happen with online casinos. So trust me, you may have to wait a day or so, but you will get paid, and it probably will be by a check after like a verification process.
Our next question is also from Paul, who says, are slot makers allowed to intentionally display jackpot outcomes when you don't have a qualifying bet?
Okay, so the way I interpret your question is, let's say that you're playing a pay line game, and let's say that you can bet up to 25 pay lines, and let's say you only bet 24. Can they tease you with putting a jackpot on line 25? No, they're not allowed to do that. There are, I can't state you an exact law that would break, but we're pretty serious about fair and somewhat transparent gaming here in Nevada, and we do not like, and the Gaming Control Board does not like, I'll call them gaffed games, that the outcome needs to be somehow naturally determined regardless of how much you bet. And by the outcome, I mean what you see on the screen. And if you didn't bet the pay line that had a big jackpot, that's tough, but they are not allowed to tease you. So that is my answer to that one.
Okay. Shall we see if anyone has an answer to the trivia question?
Yes.
Okay, and what was that question one more time?
The question was, which country has hosted the Summer Games the most times?
Okay.
No, it wasn't. It was, where are the 2028 and 2032 games going to be held?
Gotcha. So Delbrickson says, is it LA and Atlanta for US?
Nope. The LA was right in 2028, but who is going to host the 2032 games?
Well, Jack Gay said Los Angeles in 2028. So does he get a point?
He gets half a point because he got the city right, but the year wrong. Or no, wait a minute. No. I got confused. He absolutely gets a full point. It's Los Angeles in 2028.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Okay, but I'm looking for 2032, and I do not see it. And in the interest of moving on, the answer is going to be Brisbane, Australia.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. Which sport made its debut in the current 2024 Paris Games?
So if you know that answer, put it in the chat. And our next question is actually a comment where Jean said, getting hit by a stingray is not on my bucket list.
Neither was it on mine, but sometimes life surprises you.
Man, isn't that the truth? Ray Day Pinball says, why do some slot machines lower the number of lines at higher denominations? For example, 50 lines at 10 cents, but only 5 lines at $1.
I wasn't aware of this, but it may be that they're in some jurisdiction that has a maximum bet. And so maybe that happened if there was a $5 maximum bet rule, as many places have such restrictions. So that is the best I can do with that one.
Okay. And then Technics asks, a while ago you spoke of trying to get on the Penn and Teller show. Any updates with that?
No, I have not made any progress whatsoever. A magician friend of mine said that they are not accepting submissions right now. I don't know if that's even true. I don't even know, frankly, if the show is even going to have another season, but thank you for asking. No progress there at all.
Have you ever met Penn or Teller? Because they both live in Las Vegas.
Well, first of all, I've seen their show at least twice, and I think I chatted with Teller a little bit after both times. But Penn, he sent his son to the same fencing school as I sent my son. And I may have told the story before, but he was a good dad. He would often be in the fencing center and just sit there and wait for his son's lesson. And one day, he was just sitting there and he didn't seem too busy. So I went up to him and I took issue with him is that he used to have this show called, I'll just write it down because I'm too embarrassed to say it.
Yeah, YouTube could be kind of picky.
Yeah, I think this is how they spelled it on the show.
Okay.
And so the purpose of the show was to debunk myths, and generally I agreed with the show. And they were often going after. Anyway, I won't get too deep, but there was only one episode that I really took a difference in, and they had the premise that it was my interpretation that they were saying that there is no correlation between health and longevity and body weight. And at this time, Penn was still a very heavy man, like at least 300 pounds. And they just had a lot of just the stories, and just it was not a very well put together episode. They did not make a very strong case at all. I mean, they looked at examples of some heavy people that lived a long time, and people like Richard Simmons who were total fitness nuts and died young. Yes, you can always find aberrations, but I told him that I thought that he was wrong in that episode. And as an actuary, I absolutely believe that there is a correlation between longevity and a low body weight. He spoke with me a little bit about it, and he said he really didn't remember that episode very well, and he did not agree with my interpretation of what that episode was about. So I asked him, okay, then what was it about? But he said he couldn't remember. But after the fact, I felt a little bit guilty for bothering the man. I mean, here he was just trying to relax and wait for his son to finish fencing, and this critic comes along in his face and argues with him. But nevertheless, I think I was being polite and respectful. So that is my story with Penn Jillette. And if I ever get on Fool Us, maybe I will apologize for that, and maybe I won't.
Well, I'm looking forward to the day of seeing you on their show and seeing what happens.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from James, who says, what is the best hedge for the don't pass come out to avoid losing on a 7?
Oh, boy. Well, one of my 10 commandments of gambling is thou shalt not hedge thy bets. So it's kind of a painful question, but if you must, so don't have, and to avoid a loss on the 7. So as you point out, there really isn't a good hedge. I mean, you can't just bet on it. If you must bet on a 7, it's better to bet the 1, 6, 2, 5, and 4, 3 hot bets rather than the any 7. It lowers the house advantage from 16.7 to, I think, 15, if I remember off the top of my head correctly. Nevertheless, the 15% is a very high house advantage, and it's a perfect example of why I recommend you not hedge. So you're already gambling in the casino anyway. If you lose that don't pass bet, you should be able to take it. And if you can't, then you're betting too much, or maybe you shouldn't be playing at all. So again, your gambling is supposed to be about paying for a little bit of safe excitement. So in my opinion, you're not getting what you pay for if you hedge. Now, I can see that if there's like a huge amount of money involved, then maybe, but I absolutely kind of give you the finger wagging for hedging in that situation. So that is my answer to that one.
Awesome. Let's see if anyone has an answer to the trivia question real quick. Is it breaking?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Good job, Jack Ace.
Very nice.
Okay, let's move on here. Which athlete holds the most gold medals over all Olympics in the modern era?
So if you know that answer, put it in the chat. And our next gambling question comes from Jack Ace, who just won the trivia. Congratulations. Do you think that, question for both, do you think that roulette dealers can target specific sectors of the wheel with any measurable degree of accuracy? And to what measurable degree have you witnessed this ability?
My answer to that is no. I certainly have heard many stories of dealers who allegedly could do this, but I absolutely don't believe it. I think that under a clean spin, there are just too many revolutions of the ball in the wheel and obstacles on the wheel that I think that it just randomizes it beyond the skill of any dealer. Now, I will say that it has been known to happen where a dealer cheats by just giving the ball a very delicate spin to let his friends win. I absolutely believe that does happen, but that is cheating, and I don't interpret that to be what you're asking about. But Heather, what's your answer?
My answer is yes. So as a casino dealer, I actually knew someone who dealt roulette who could hit any number he wanted. And it wasn't just once or twice. It was like 10, 15 times. He hit the number every single time. And I picked the number and he hit that number. So I do believe you could do it. The wheel has to be going slow enough that the ball doesn't fling all over the place. And also you have to, as a dealer, make sure your ball goes around 3 times the wheel. Otherwise, it's not a correct spin. And also, not every casino dealer could do it. However, there is a casino policy where dealers are not allowed to look at the wheel when they spin the ball. If they look at the wheel while they spin the ball, they can do this, but they're not allowed to. It's against company policy. You have to be looking at the layout when you spin the ball, and that makes it pretty much impossible to hit the number that you want to hit.
All right, a little bit of a disagreement there, but that's okay.
It's fun when we have a disagreement. We don't agree on everything, but it's always like really fun talking with you about it.
Oh, thank you. All right. Yeah. Did anyone get the question on which athlete holds the most gold medals?
Is it Michael Phelps?
It is indeed Michael Phelps. I see at least 3 people got that, so congratulations. Okay, here's a simple one. True or false? In the ancient times, athletes participated in the Olympics naked.
So if you know that answer, put it in the chat. I could see why they would make this a rule, especially after that whole pole vaulting incident that just happened recently. Did you hear about that?
No.
I've got to show you. Okay. I will, after this video, after everything is done, I will send you this video and we will totally talk about this.
Okay. Maybe you want to tell the audience what to search on just in case they're curious.
I don't know if I could do this like Google or the YouTube safe.
Why don't you put it in the private chat? Because I think I'm not as shy as you.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, I can't say this on YouTube.
I'm not sure what you mean.
So he jumped over the pole and then knocked the pole over.
Oh, okay.
I can't say that.
What Heather is saying, I have no problem saying this.
Oh, good.
Is Heather is saying that somebody did a pole vault and his penis was big and it caused the bar to knock over.
Are you allowed to say that on YouTube? I don't think
that is just part of the body. I did not use a slang term like the one that starts with a C. So I am not embarrassed about that at all because it was, came up in context and we're all adults here. So
I've been trying really hard to watch my words while I'm on a live stream.
I don't think that YouTube is going to ding me for that because, again, I use the appropriate medical term and it did flow naturally from the topic at hand.
Okay. So our next gambling question is from Phil Burrock. We'll just say Phi.
I think he means fiber optic.
Oh, that makes total sense. Fiber optic. In the case with some recent permanent casino closings, what happens to the unpaid jackpots that are required to be paid to patrons, if not won on the last day of the operations?
Okay, I think somebody asked about this on the last live stream with the Mirage was in its last days at that live stream. And there is, invariably a big promotion of some kind where they give away this jackpot money. And what I think they do is they they probably turn off all the games that do have progressive jackpots. They take all this money and they add it all up, and then they say, okay, this is the progressive money that we somehow need to give back to the players, and this is a regulation that they must do it. And they generally do it in some kind of a drawing where the more you play, the more tickets you get. So there is a drawing probably in the last, day, or, like the last, probably the big one is going to be like the last day. And so they have all these drawing tickets and somebody has to win it. And let's just say that they call a big winner and he's not present. They probably would just call another name. So it's probably not going to be a problem that they haven't given the money away by the time they are supposed to close the door, because like I said, it's usually a drawing and there's always people that are going to play in these drawings.
Yeah. Okay, so our next question comes from Aug. Hi, why do Ultimate X video poker machines online not paid the same as the Ultimate X machines on the casino floor? Can we fight about this? Or I'm sorry, can we fight for this?
To be honest, I did not know that this was the case. So this is one where I'm just going to have to say I don't know, because I didn't know that this was going on. Sorry.
Okay. Shall we see if anyone has an answer to the trivia?
Yeah.
Okay. Before we do, Jimmy just says one way to say that was one pole knocked down the other pole.
That's a good way of putting it.
A lot of people, it looks like, said true. Dalbrixen was the first one.
Yep, it is indeed true. And, when I went to Europe last year, I went to some of the Roman, well, just one, is like what was the name of the city? It was like the, I think it, oh boy. Anyway, it was like this old Roman city in France, and they still had one of the big arenas, or maybe that's not like an amphitheater. And they said that when they did plays there, the actors would usually be naked. So yeah, I think it's no big secret that the Greeks and Romans did not have any hang-ups about nudity, and it wasn't until Christianity took hold that people started getting embarrassed about the human body. So let's move on here. Which was the first Olympics of the modern times, and where was it held?
So if you know the answer, put that in the chat. And our next gambling question comes from Jafar, who says, is there a formula to obtain the ruin of risk of all gambling games, or some games are very complex and they need to run a simulation?
Yeah, unless the bet is really simple, like in roulette, like you either win X or you lose, then the calculations are not that bad. But if it's anything like video poker, where a win can be a whole range of things, then you pretty much have to run computer simulations. And again, the risk of ruin is complicated, and it's just easier to like I said, run simulations to answer those questions.
Okay, our next question comes from Technics, who says, what do you think is the most important skill or trait for someone to have in order to be a winning blackjack player, other than playing perfect basic strategy and the ability to count cards?
I would say that it's a healthy respect for their bankroll. I think the biggest mistake card counters make is they overbet their bankroll, and they go bust when they hit a bad spell. And let's see, I also think that a lot of card counters overestimate their skill level. And I think that they make mistakes that they don't realize, like they don't know the count correctly or things like that. And, I have met lots of people who allege to be card counters, and they didn't even, most of them don't even know the basic strategy. So I think that most people who call themselves card counters are really just recreational players who, might try to count the cards a little bit and probably do it badly. But let's see. Okay, but but you say for a player who knows perfect basic strategy and has the ability. So my answer is, again, going to be overbetting your bankroll.
Can I tell you a story?
Sure.
When I was a blackjack dealer, I had one of my players on my table who was just losing. And then finally, after 2 hours, he's like, I'm counting cards. Do you think the casino's going to care? And I'm like, dude, you're $2,000 down in 2 hours. No, the casino doesn't care. Go ahead and keep counting. They're perfectly happy to have you counting at this table. Please continue.
I like that.
Should we see if anyone answered the trivia question?
Yes, I do see the right answer there.
Ooh.
The answer, or no, wait a minute. I see the right answer, but between two different people. So the answer, the correct location was Athens, Greece. So Jack Ace got that, but the year was 1896, which Dal Brixen got. So I'll give half a point to each of you. Okay, the next question will be when and where were the first Olympics that allowed women to compete? And for extra credit, in which 5 games were they allowed to compete in?
If you know that answer, put it in the chat. Also, if you have a gambling question you want Michael Shackelford to answer for you, please put that in the live chat as well, and we will answer them in the order that they are received. Our next gambling question comes from G Jr., who says, is Spanish 21 more volatile than regular blackjack?
No. I would say it's probably a little bit less because there's less doubling going on in Spanish 21. And I don't think the bonuses really happen that much to make up for that. So this is probably on my website if you look at the standard deviation for both games. But I tend to think Spanish 21 is going to be just a little bit less volatile than blackjack.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So Spanish 21 has a higher house edge than regular blackjack, correct?
It depends on the particular rules between both games. But under the standard Spanish 21 rules, the house advantage is about 0.8%, which is about the same as the standard 3-2 blackjack game. So they're roughly about the same.
But a standard 3-2 blackjack game would be about 0.5, whereas the Spanish 21 would be about a 0.8.
Well, if you look at, say, 6 decks, dealer hits a soft 17, blackjack pays 3-2, double after a split is allowed, The house edge under those rules is going to be about 0.8. And we could check my blackjack calculator if you disagree with me. But I think 0.5 is more of like a blended average between hit and stand on soft 17 games. So, if you're forced to say what is the house advantage in blackjack, a lot of people just throw out a 0.5% again. I think just because it's a nice round number and it takes into consideration lots of tables. But I like to go with a higher number because that's what most people play at. Most people don't have the budget to play at a table where the dealer stands on a soft 17.
Okay. And if people want to know if a game is more volatile than another game, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the way that I've thought of it is if you have a higher house edge, that means that the game is more volatile. And if you have a lower house edge, that means the game is more stable.
There's no correlation there. In fact, probably the higher house edge games, well, let's see, if forced, they probably are more volatile just because the higher house edge games tend to be like the poker variants, which do have some jackpots involved. But I would say that that's mainly kind of coincidental. And I would not use that rule of thumb. A good way to tell if a game is volatile is if the wins are big. So something like betting on a single number in roulette that pays 35 to 1. That's going to be volatile because when it hits, you win a lot of money. Also, slots and video poker, video keno are pretty volatile because a lot of the wins are in like the big wins. So that's about as far as I can take that quickly.
So how much does a blackjack pay on Spanish 21? Is it 2 to 1 or is it
3 to 2? But I think if it's suited, it might pay more. I think that like suited and diamonds might pay 2 to 1. I don't remember exactly. It has been like 20 years since I've played Spanish 21, so I don't remember it perfectly.
Okay. Should we see if anyone has the answer to your trivia question?
Yes.
Okay. Was it tennis and golf?
I believe those were 2 of them. Yes, tennis and golf were two of the 5.
Awesome. And that was from Cash Out. And then Dalbrickson says poetry, painting, and crochet.
Croquet. And croquet was indeed one of them, but the other 2 are not sports, so no. So the answer to the question, by the way, is it was the Paris Olympics in 1900, so the second Olympic Games. And the full 5 were tennis, sailing, croquet, golf, and equestrianism. Awesome. So there you go. Let's move on. What's a good one? At the age of 14, who scored 7 perfect 10s in the 1976 Summer Games? And I remember this.
You really remember this?
I was 9 years old in 1976. No, I was 11. And so I distinctly remember watching these games. Is my in my parents' house, and my father was kind of enamored with this particular gymnast, and she was just the darling of these games. She was just as close to perfect as you can get. So, so the question is, who was she?
So if you know, put that in the chat. And G Jr. just wanted to thank you real quick for answering his question.
You're welcome.
And our next gambling question comes from Old School Scraps, who says, are there any hotel and casinos in Las Vegas that don't have resort fees?
I believe the South Point does not. I'm pretty sure. I tend to think the El Cortez does not, which are both managed by the Gone family, so that may not be coincidental. So those are just 2 off the top of my head. So if any viewers want to confirm that and mention it in the comments, please do. But it's the reason why I respect those 2 casinos a lot.
Oh, cool. And speaking of which Dal Brixton said, I stayed at a timeshare complex in Vegas for a week and no hotel or resort fees. And they had a full size fridge. And then in Las Vegas, didn't they just make it illegal for Airbnb to have an Airbnb in Las Vegas?
I have not heard that, and I tend to think that I would have. Um, there may have been some restrictions, like where I was recently in Washington State, and the woman who ran the Airbnb that I had there said that the island I was on, Orcas Island, that there was a restriction on the number of people that could have Airbnb licenses, which was very small. And she said that the the I guess the city leaders were really trying to clamp down on Airbnbs, which I think is a shame because at least there are so few hotels that there is a real shortage of places for visitors to stay. So despite the terrible experience I had with being thrown out of two different Airbnbs for the eclipse, I have had nothing but good experiences with Airbnb. Other than that, so I applaud the business model.
Why were you thrown out?
I told the story. I had a mega rant on a previous live stream, but the short version is that I, over a year in advance of April 8th, 2024, I booked a house in Waco, Texas. Or no, wait a minute. I booked enough. I did book a house in Waco, Texas. And then on the date of the day after the annular eclipse, coincidentally, but I think not, the host says we have decided to not do short-term rentals anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Your reservation is canceled. So, but I still had like 6 months to go at this point. So I did find another one at not too much more money. And so I thought I was all good. And then, like a month before, he throws me out saying that he double booked it between Airbnb and VRBO. I'm skeptical of this. I tend to think he just didn't know about the eclipse. And when he found out that he could get 10 times as much money as what I paid, he threw me out and lied about it. Yeah, that is basically what happened.
Okay.
And whatever live stream was the one after April 8th, I have a huge rant about this if you want to hear the whole thing.
I remember it now. When you said thrown out, I imagine you actually being in the Airbnb and then coming and like literally throwing you out. And I'm like, what did you do?
I just got an email saying the host said, sorry, but I'm canceling your reservation, which they have the right to do. And Airbnb does have a policy of charging the host 10% of the rental amount. However, 10% is way too little. In the case of the eclipse, how rentals were going for like 10 times the normal prices on the eclipse path. So I think that these people just did not know about the eclipse at the time that I booked it, saw that they could book it to somebody else for 10 times as much money, and just threw me out with no business ethics whatsoever. In my opinion, a deal is a deal. I have made lots of bad deals myself, but I suck it up, and I have always honored every deal I have ever made. But that is not the case with some of these hosts at Airbnb. And I do hope that Airbnb will change their policies to punish these worthless hosts more. But I have spent enough time on this already because I know that I really went into this on a previous show.
Okay, so should we see if anyone has an answer to the trivia question?
Yes, we should.
Is it Nadia Comaici?
Yes, it was indeed Nadia Comanici of Romania. Very good, Jackie. So you get a point for that one. Okay, let's move on here. Which were the first Olympic Games, city and year, to be televised?
So if you know the answer, put it in the chat. And our next gambling question comes from Cash Out, who says, Do you believe that it's possible that some roulette dealers, I think we already
Yeah, we already
answered
got
this.
that
I
one.
think he was just asking again. Okay. Our next one is from Otis, who says, in your Golden Egypt analysis for the EV of the next spin, if a certain reel is wild, I want to know why the reel 4 or 5 is less good, but why aren't reels? Oh, he knows why reel 4 or 5 is less good, but why aren't reels 1, 2, and 3 all equivalent in EV?
Because every pay line or way to win, whatever the case may be, must go through those first three reels. So those are essential to winning. And reels 4 and 5 help you win more. But if you don't get the symbols, Matt, if you don't run through the wins on reels 1, 2, and 3, you're just out of luck. There's no other way to win. So that is why I put the bigger emphasis on those three reels on the left side.
Awesome. Our next gambling question comes, it's not a gambling question, comes from Jafar. Do you have any card tricks for tonight?
Nope, sorry. No card trick, no magic today.
And then we have some comments. A math test says that Cosmo runs occasional promos with no resort fees. And then Technics and Cash Out both say that the El Cortez has no resort fees.
Yay, good for the El Cortez. Let's give them a shout out.
Awesome. One more gambling question. Are slot APs and casinos really on the same team? Aren't APs still a direct cost to casinos as they steal EV from recreational players who may not return after a bad experience?
No, they're absolutely on different teams. And, I tell people in casino management this whenever they ask, is I think that slot APs are a parasite on their property, and they are walking in and leaving with more money than they came in with, and through advantage play. And I respect advantage play. I mean, I will vulture a good machine myself, but if I was on the other side and I ran a casino, I would not want people coming into my casino and walking around and pressing buttons and only sucking money out of games in a positive state. And even if those individual machines still made as much money as I expect, ultimately these winning advantage players are taking money from recreational players who don't know what they're doing. So these recreational players are losing more money. They're leaving less happy. And as a business person, you want your customer to have a happy experience and return. So I think that casinos in general are a little too short-sighted with this problem, and they probably see, well, these vultural machines are still making enough money to justify being in the casino. But I think that's short-term thinking, and I think that they need to realize that if there was some kind of a happiness measurement that they could measure, they would see that that the recreational players are losing more, they're more unhappy, and they're going to be less likely to return. So that is my 2 cents about that.
Awesome. Shall we see who has an answer to the trivia?
Yes.
Was it London in 1948?
Nope.
Was it Rome in 1960?
Nope.
Was it Germany?
It was Germany. I'll give a half point for that because I don't see the year. The year was 1936, and that was Nazi Germany at the time. And it was Adolf Hitler himself who announced the opening of the games. And
Wow.
This features prominently in the story of the movie Contact, which I highly recommend. So there you go. There's the answer to that one. And let's see, let's go on to the next question. What is the reason that there are 5 rings in the Olympic logo?
So if you know the answer, put that in the chat. And also, if you have any gambling questions, ask them now or forever hold your peace, or at least until the next time we do an AMA live stream. Our next gambling question comes from Jafar, who says, does the random number generator in the slot machine, which does not follow pay lines, takes as well 3 consecutive symbols for each reel, or each symbol is taken randomly?
It works the same way, where there is still reel stripping, and the machine will pick a random number for each reel to determine where the reels stop. And that is what it will display on the screen. And then the player will be paid appropriately. So indeed, there are still reel strips with ways to win games.
Okay. And then our next question is more of a clarification. To clarify the question on Golden Egypt, your analysis says the reel 2 wild is better than reel 3 wild. Why aren't reel 2 and reel 3 wild equal in EV?
Let me get a copy of my book here. Let me refresh my memory about that game.
And then while you're doing that, I just want to say thank you to a math test. I really appreciate the compliment.
Oh, yes. Thanks for showing up. She was kind enough to be the guinea pig on these Olympic questions. So I hope she won't mind me saying I asked her the full 20 and she got a score of 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Huh. Okay, where is my Golden Egypt page? Which Little Piggies, Scarab, Golden Jungle, Hexbreaker, Magic of the Nile, Ocean Magic. Okay. Okay.
And we have a couple minutes left, so if you have any gambling questions, please put them in the chat. And if we don't answer your question today, we always have another AMA that you could come back and we'll answer your question then.
Yep. Okay. So here, to quote myself on page 90, my advice for Golden Egypt is to play if the first 3 reels from left to right have at least 2 coins. Ignore reels 4 and 5. In this image, reels 1, 2, 3 have a total of 3 coins, blah, 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 blah. So I'm not seeing where I am saying what you say that I said. You can see it right here in my book that I treat reels 1 to 3 equally, and you need to have at least 3 coins between those 3 reels. And if you do, then you should play. Nice and simple. And if I said something somewhere else, like my forum, then frankly, I just don't remember saying that. So I can't defend something I don't remember saying.
Okay. Our next gambling question comes from Cash Out. What is the math behind the don't pass line having a slightly better odds than the pass line?
You know, there's no easy way to explain it. You just have to just go through all the ways the bets could happen. And you can see that it's the 12 where there's a difference. And so the house advantage is 1.41% in regular craps. So the don't pass is basically the opposite. So if it were exactly the opposite, then the player would have the 1.41% advantage, but they take away that 12 and make it a push instead of a win. So we subtract 1 divided by 36, which is 2.77% from that, and we get a house advantage of 1.36%. So that's just the math. It's just basically the rules of the game, and there's no simpler way of explaining it.
Okay. Do you want to do one more gambling question, or you want to do the answer to the trivia?
Let's do the answer to the trivia.
Okay. Is the reason why because it is 5 continents?
Yes. Good job, Dal Brixon. So at the time, and frankly, I think they still think of this way in Europe, is they counted 5 continents. There was Australia, Europe, Asia, Africa, and they counted both North and South America as one continent. I personally don't like counting it that way. North and South America are only attached by a very little piece in Panama. And frankly, I have never understood why Europe and Asia are separate continents. I love geography. I have been waiting 59 years for someone to give me a good explanation to this. And some people say, well, there's the Caucasus Mountains and they kind of divide things. But no, a mountain range is not sufficient for a change in continent. Otherwise, there would be lots of continents with mountain ranges dividing them. And furthermore, the Caucasus do not completely separate Europe and Asia. So if anyone can explain to me why Europe and Asia are different continents, please do so somehow. But I absolutely believe they should be the same continent. So there should be 5, but they should be North and South America. No, there should be 6. North America, South America, Africa, Oceania / Australia, Antarctica, and one that combines Europe and Asia. So there we go. There are my 6 continents if I ran things. So that will be my final little rant of the show. Did we leave off with a Olympics question that I didn't address? Yes, no.
No.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah. The
Okay.
5 continents. Okay.
And then, do you want to do when we do the next AMA, or do you want to do any more gambling questions?
No, I see it's been an hour. So today is August the 8th. Why don't we do one on August 22nd? I sadly have nothing going on. Don't have much going on in August, which is normally a busy time for me. And I am sadly not doing Burning Man this year.
What happened?
I just decided not to go. I just, it's Burning Man is frankly, it's a big cost in time and it's kind of expensive, and I just don't feel called to go this year. The last 2 years I did go, and most of my friends who do go are also skipping this year. So I think that going forward, I'm not going to be an every year kind of burner. I think that I'm going to be an every other year one. So I'm already kind of putting together a camp, mainly of like Las Vegas area hikers for 2025. And
fun.
Yep. So yeah. So yeah. Any final comments, Heather?
The 6th chamber is requesting that you answer his gambling question, but that's pretty much it in the chat.
Well, I don't see the question there.
How much is the current no-bus blackjack rule worth in California blackjack? Also, are there any strategy changes? 22 loses, 23, 24, 25 pushes. If the player total is less than the dealer bus total?
Frankly, my answer to that is I don't know. I'm not that familiar with the game. I do think I have a page on it on my site, but I wrote it years ago, so I just don't remember it very well. So with that, let's say our goodbyes. Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you very much, audience, for showing up and for all your questions and comments. And I will see y'all in 2 weeks.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.